Have you seen this show? This is a video I've been wanting to make for a while now, but never really knew how to. You see, I just want to talk about this show, which you may or may not have heard of before. When I asked my friends if they had any idea what the show was about, the normal people who didn't really watch any anime didn't know anything. But the weebs in my friend group recognized it as that one poorly animated American show, which is incredibly sad that it's got this negative connotation to it. So with this video, I'm hoping I can change your perspective about the show and hopefully even get you interested in its premise. So what even is RWBY? Before I watched the show, I had only heard of the music, so naturally I asked myself the same question. I tried doing a bit of research online but could never find a good summary. It doesn't even have any source material, which made me confused because almost all anime out there start out as a web novel or a web series before it gets its anime adaptation. But the story of RWBY is actually pretty funny, and to talk about what the show is now and what makes it interesting, we have to first talk about its creation. You may have heard of Red vs. Blue before, and if you don't know what it is exactly, you have at least heard of the name before if you're on this side of the internet. It's a popular web series created by Rooster Teeth in Texas that has spawned countless internet memes and to my knowledge is still ongoing 20 years after its creation.
It's quiet. Too quiet. Now suddenly it's too loud. I preferred it when it was quiet.
While I personally haven't watched the show, it's important for the context of this video because of one man, Monty Ohm. Monty, who tragically passed away in 2015 because of an allergic reaction, was an animator working at Rooster Teeth on Red vs. Blue. More than that, Monty was extremely talented at fight choreography and made many viral nerdy fight animations in the early 2000s. He more or less asked the Rooster Teeth production people if he could make his own show after the release of Red vs. Blue Season 11.
But I came up with the theme red, white, black, and yellow because I'm Asian.
His project was greenlit, and only 2 weeks after the release of Red vs. Blue, he published the first trailer of his new show called The Red Trailer. And so to finally answer the question of what is RWBY, it's basically this guy's excuse to make badass fight scenes at work. I mean, that's not all it is, but the lore and world building really starts picking up after a few volumes. Remember, the team behind RWBY consisted only of a small number of people, hence the bad animation. But where the show in the beginning lacks in visual fidelity, it makes up for with the crisp fight scenes, the outstanding soundtrack and the characters themselves.
Great! The gang's all here. Now we could die together!
And part of the fun of watching RWBY is seeing how the crew improve over time. For every volume the animation gets better and better until it looks like something from a high-budget studio. The show in the beginning is completely unrecognizable from the start. But what is it that makes the fight scenes in the show stand out? Well, it's the weapons. And if this doesn't sell you on the show, I don't know what will. You see, Monty had a very distinct vision for the combat techniques used in the show that I don't think I've ever seen emulated anywhere else. Almost every weapon has ranged and melee attributes. Let's look at the 4 main girls as an example. RWBY has a gun sight, meaning she uses the trajectory of firing the gun to swing it around and also uses it as a long-ranged sniper rifle. Weiss has a revolver rapier, which she uses to fight and summon different attacks with. Blake has a blade on her magnum, which is attached to a ribbon she can use to throw and swing herself around with. Her sheath also acts as a secondary sword, meaning she can also fight two-handed. It sounds completely ridiculous, and it is, and it's amazing. And finally, Yang has shotgun bracers that fire exploding cartridges. She's the only real brawler of the 4 main girls. And on top of all this, everyone in this world has the ability to unlock their own unique quirk, if you will, which they utilize in battle, and that's not even mentioning dust, which brings a 3rd layer to the fighting. But I don't think I have to explain every minute detail of the show for you if you're thinking that this sounds interesting. I mean, you got this far into the video, right? There's nothing that emphasizes the fighting style more than the girls' respective trailers. If you have a few minutes to spare, I highly suggest giving them a watch. Yes, the animation looks dated, but as previously said, the fight scenes themselves are excellently choreographed, and with its popularity, the show only got better and better looking. Even still, if you're not a fan of the 3D animation, there's always the actual anime that was released last year, which was a great introduction for my friends to watch the show proper. It takes its own spin on the show and tells its own sort of side story, but the main elements are there and you can jump in it blind and don't need any outside information to understand the story or characters. With the release of RWBY Volume 9 happening right now, along with the show being exclusively aired on Crunchyroll rather than on Rooster Teeth services, there's not really any better time to get into the show. And that was my rant on RWBY, which has hopefully at least changed your outlook on the show. I'm sorry if this script was a bit all over the place, because I basically wrote it all in an afternoon. I plan to make more anime-related videos like this, so if you're interested, consider hitting the subscribe button and stay tuned for more. See ya!